In Baku, in July 2025, the South Caucasus was at the epicenter of a new wave of international tension. Early in the morning, dozens of Turkish military transport aircraft landed in Baku, delivering more than 3,000 military personnel, armored vehicles and modern anti-aircraft missile systems. The landing was under intensified security, and on the streets of the Azerbaijani capital, Turkish and Azerbaijani flags were developing, a symbol of an increasing strategic alliance, causing anxiety far outside the region. Ankara and Baku represent what is happening as a brotherly mission in the name of stability. But official statements could not hide the military direction of the operation. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his Azerbaijani colleague Ilham Aliyev emphasized the strengthening of regional security, saying that the actions were not directed against third countries. Nevertheless, in Moscow, Tehran and a number of other countries, the statements were perceived as diplomatic camouflage in the face of a serious redistribution of forces. The Russian Ministry of Defense called the Turkish deployment a one-sided and destructive step, threatening the strategic balance in the Transcaucasian region. In response, the Kremlin used emergency mechanisms of military and diplomatic response. Armored vehicles and operational and tactical complexes of Iskander were spotted in Dagestan, North Ossetia and Chechnya. The Russian Ministry of Defense announced that it had started the operation in the region, but did not announce it on the basis of the official announcement. The Russian Ministry of Defense said that they carried out a three-step exercise to prevent terrorist attacks, and they will begin the operation in the region from afternoon. The U.S. Department of Defense said they were already ready to conduct an amphibious mission and respond as the Russian Ministry of Defense said it would be an official mission. At the same time, the Russian Ministry of Defense said that the Kremlin would not start any domestic military operations. Use.tv. The Russian state is already creating new security measures where it enters the map, and therefore the Russian government is not going to use these systems in Russia. The Russian state is already creating new security measures where it enters the map, and therefore the Russian government is not going to use these systems in Russia. It is now time to recall the results of the training. In the first place, in coordination with Armenia, which has already requested the strengthening of the Russian contingent in the southern areas of the republic, the reaction within Azerbaijan turned out to be ambiguous. Mass rallies in support of the Turkish presence in Baku took place, especially among the nationalistic young people. However, in the northern and western areas of the country bordering on Armenia and Russia, the situation has worsened. Partial evacuation of civilian objects has begun in the Gubensk and Zakatal regions, patrolling has intensified, and local residents report fear of possible escalation. Iran is also concerned about the situation. The Islamic Revolution Guard Corps has been brought into increased combat readiness in the provinces in the north of the country. According to Iranian sources, a deployment of mobile anti-aircraft systems and intelligence BPA has been recorded in the area of Tabriz and Ardabil. Tehran is not in a hurry to make sharp statements, but diplomatic activity has increased sharply. Iran's Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian arrived in Baku for urgent negotiations with the Azerbaijani leadership. According to sources, Tehran tried to persuade Aliyev to refuse further military escalation, warning of the risks of Moscow's intervention. At the same time, the Armenian-Iranian military interaction was being intensified. In Tehran, closed meetings of the Armenian delegation with the Iranian military have taken place. Tehran is not in a hurry to make sharp statements, but diplomatic activity has increased sharply. Tehran is not in a hurry to make sharp statements, but diplomatic activity has taken place. Tehran is not in a hurry to make sharp statements, but diplomatic activity has taken place. Tehran is not in a hurry to make sharp statements, but diplomatic activity has taken place. Tehran is not in a hurry to make sharp statements, but diplomatic activity has taken place. Tehran is not in a hurry to make sharp statements, but diplomatic activity has taken place. Tehran is not in a hurry to make sharp statements, but diplomatic activity has taken place. Tehran is not in a hurry to make sharp statements, but diplomatic activity has taken place. Tehran is not in a hurry to make sharp statements, but diplomatic activity has taken place. Tehran is not in a hurry to make sharp statements, but diplomatic activity has taken place. Iran continues to position itself as a supporter of the peace, but is increasingly leaning towards a tough line against the backdrop of the activity of Ankara. International alliances have not remained on the side. The headquarters of NATO's headquarters in Brussels has urgently assembled an emergency meeting. Turkey's representatives demanded guarantees of support from allies in the event of an escalation. NATO General Secretary Jens Stoltenberg confirmed concern over Moscow's actions. About the introduction of rapid response forces to increased readiness. In the eastern Mediterranean, sea multinationals have been deployed, and reconnaissance flights of U.S. strategic drones along the borders of Georgia and Armenia have been activated. The OECD also took part in the process. The Republic of Armenia sent an official request for the expansion of military support. Russian advisors and radio and electronic warfare complexes have arrived in Yerevan. Joint efforts have begun in the southern regions of Armenia. The OECD has been working with Belarus, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. These steps have demonstrated the readiness of the OECD to act in response to the threat. A full-scale information campaign is unfolding in the media space. Russian media accuse Turkey of promoting the ideology of neo-Osmanism and attempts to establish military political dominance in the Transcaucasus. Turkish TV channels broadcast footage of military operations in Azerbaijan, presenting them as peacekeepers and security guarantors. The OECD has also launched a report on the security of the Turkish world. The rhetoric is becoming more and more aggressive, and the nationalist mobilization is increasing. Both sides are preparing the population for the likelihood of a conflict. Armenia, feeling the growing threat, is strengthening its defense. According to Yerevan, the Armenian armed forces is strengthening its positions in the areas of Sunak and Vorodin. The anti-aircraft missile complexes OSA and Arazo Smerch are under increased combat readiness. In the context of the pressure of the opposition, the Pashinyan government is forced to demonstrate determination, strengthening cooperation with Russia and conducting mobilization events. Meanwhile, Azerbaijan officially transferred its armed forces into a state of full combat readiness. President Aliyev, in a way of addressing the nation, said that any threat to sovereignty would be reflected decisively and without compromises. The parliament provided the president with extraordinary powers. Partial mobilization began in the country, the civilian intelligence system was activated, and strategic reserves were redistributed in favor of the defense sector. Demonstrative exercises were held in Baku and Ganges with the participation of Turkish military. BPA Laba Rakhtar, TB2 and armored vehicles. Thus, the structure of a possible future clash is becoming more and more clear. On one side, Ankara and Baku, supported by NATO. On the other side, Moscow, Yerevan and OTKB allies with Iran in a position of complex neutrality. The United States and the US are still limited by diplomatic statements calling for restraint, but with a clear reluctance to interfere directly. Meanwhile, every new movement of troops, every provocation, every information rush can become a trigger. The South Caucasus ceases to be a periphery and again turns into a hotspot of world politics. Energy routes, ethnic contradictions, ambitions of regional and global players, all this turns into a dangerous cocktail. The risk of a full-scale war is no longer a hypothesis, it is becoming an increasingly probable scenario. The Caucasus was on the edge of a global confrontation, and the score went to the weak, if not to the bottom of the South Caucasus. It no longer looks like a local geopolitical node. Today it is a powder keg on which several heavyweights of global politics play at once. The Turkish invasion under the flag of brotherhood has become a trigger, followed by lightning-fast reactions of Moscow, Tehran, Yerevan and Brussels. In our eyes, the residual balance of forces formed after the Karabakh conflict is collapsing. This is the result of the war and decades of diplomatic lobbying. What happened in Baku is not an ally visit. This is a classic projection of force. A demonstration that Turkey is ready not only to be a player, but to become the center of decision-making in the South Caucasus. This is a challenge to Russia, Iran and at the same time a signal to NATO. Ankara demands support, hinting at the possibility of a frontal confrontation with Moscow. And while in Brussels, they are preparing for an emergency.